Here are 32 games potentially coming to PC in 2022. I'll start with the games that have got more solid release dates or windows. Hitman 3 already has VR support on the PlayStation VR, but it was recently announced that PC VR support is coming for the 1 year anniversary on January the 20th. Unlike the PSVR version, the PC will get full motion control support, and you can also play the full Hitman trilogy in VR if you own the first two games by launching the levels through the Hitman 3 launcher. Unless something else comes out of nowhere, I expect this will be my VR game of 2022. Wanderer is an action-adventure game where you travel in time to lots of cool locations, like the Moon and World War II, and it seems to be going to great lengths to bring excellent hand interaction and interesting game mechanics that really make use of virtual reality. It releases on January the 28th and is very high on my most anticipated list. January is already starting off 2022 with a bang. Ultrawings 2 is releasing in February. I believe it's coming to Quest first, then PC after. If you've never played the first game, it's essentially Pilotwings in VR with full motion control support, so you can flick the switch and grab the in-game flight sticks virtually. You get to fly a range of different planes, with lots of variety with dogfights, landing missions, flying a certain path through rings. It also has lots of comfort options as well as arcade or more simulator style controls. I enjoyed the first game, and I'm looking forward to the sequel. Requisition is another zombie VR shooter due to release in early access in February. The thing that caught my eye with this one is that we'll have co-op and the ability to craft makeshift weapons like turning a toaster into a weapon. You can combine over 300 objects to make new weapons, so it seems to be going for the Dead Rising feel of using everyday items and killing zombies with them all in a suburban environment. It's one to keep an eye out for sure. RU77 is a bullet hell VR shooter with an interesting visual art style. It's set in Russia in 2077. It seems to be going for an arcade style with combos and a scoring system. I'm interested to get my hands on this, and it's slated for Q1 2022 release window. Green Hell VR is the VR port of the non-VR game of the same name. It's a survival game set in the jungle with natives and lots of wildlife you have to deal with. The developers have clearly put a lot of love into the port with some excellent crafting mechanics like wrapping bandages around your arms similar to the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, lighting fires by striking rocks with a knife, and physically chopping down trees. Green Hell VR also has a Q1 2022 release window. Zenith The Last City is a VR MMO with an early 2022 release window. This game is highly anticipated by people who are into these types of games and has some nice visuals and the ability to fly around the world. It's not my sort of game personally, but out of all the VR MMOs I've seen, I put my money on this one being a success. Moss Book 2 has a spring launch window for PlayStation VR. It seems to be a timed exclusive, which the first one was. The first game released on PC 4 months after, so I'm expecting this one to come to PC towards the end of 2022. If you've never heard of Moss, it's an excellent third-person VR game, but it's also kind of a first-person game, where you play as a god, helping out a cute little mouse on an adventure. It's an essential VR game in my opinion, and I can't wait to play the sequel. Propogation at Paradise Hotel was recently announced at the Upload VR Winter Games Showcase. No gameplay was shown, but it's going to be an expanded full game based on the free wave shooter Propogation, which whilst basic in gameplay, has some really nice visuals and it's got lots of different enemies including giant spiders. It has a Q4 2022 release window, but to be honest I expect this one to slip back into 2023. Hopefully this game will have levels that you move through rather than just being in one spot. Outlier is an interesting roguelike shooter made by the developers Stride and Against. It uses some of Stride's movement mechanics. You can run and jump around with your hand gestures, and it's got some really creative weapons to play with. It currently has a Q4 2022 release window. The Excorcist Legion SIN was announced recently, which is a sequel to the Exorcist VR game series, but this time it features co-op. Co-op horror games seem to be becoming more and more popular, and from what I've heard, the Exorcist VR games are pretty scary. I wouldn't know personally though because my testicles aren't big enough to play it. It's another game with a Q4 2022 release window. This next batch of games just have a 2022 release date. Hubris is a gorgeous sci-fi adventure VR game that's already been previewed by a few YouTubers and is up there with one of the best looking games in VR. I'd be curious to get my hands on this one to see how it feels and what the gameplay is going to be like, but it's up there for me as a highly anticipated game for 2022. Vertigo 2 is a sequel to Vertigo Remastered, which if you haven't played already, you should because it's excellent. The sequel looks to be improving on the first game in every way, and it's another VR game that's setting up 2022 to be a good year for PC VR. Firmament is the next big game from the Mist developers. It was kickstarted a couple of years ago, and it looks really nice with the ability to play in and out of VR. The new Mist remake is one of the best looking games in VR, so I expect this game to look nice, but it will be a pretty hardcore puzzle game for those who like to challenge the brain. Samurai Slaughterhouse is a physics-based combat game with a very distinct art style. It promises a Metroidvania-style open world with a full-length story, NPC interactions and RPG elements. It's one to keep an eye on for sure. Ziggys Cosmic Adventures is an immersive cockpit space game which boasts a fully interactive cockpit which is all within arm's reach with full room scale. Not only do you have to avoid asteroids and get into dogfights, but you have to manage your ship's resources whilst petting cute space aliens. It looks like it's going to be some sort of roguelite with runs that change with each time. Paradox of Hope is a survival single player shooter. It's basically Metro in VR. You can play it stealth or go all out action. Looks like you're going to have really good interaction with the environment, and it's got upgrades for weapons. It's another game that I'd like to get my hands on just to see how it plays. Into the Darkness is basically Boneworks, but lowered budget with a more generic look. There's actually a demo available if you want to try it for yourself. It takes a lot of elements from some of the best VR games like Walking Dead Saints and Sinners backpack inventory, or Half-Life Alyx's Gravity Gloves grab system. It has potential with some fine tuning and polish, and it could still be a lot of fun even if it isn't going to blow our minds. Ultimechs is a multiplayer futuristic sports game where you fire your fists into a ball to try and score against your opponent. I'm not a big multiplayer gamer, but I know some people will enjoy this one. The rest of these games don't have any real release date, and not all of them will come out in 2022, but some of them will. I've tried to order them so the games that are most likely to come out soon first and the least likely ones last. District Steel recently had a demo pop up on Steam, and it's pretty good. It has an interesting look with some nice visuals and effects, but the best part of this game is the rocket boosters that let you boost up into the air or even just boost forward quickly along the floor. When you combine this with the slow-mo and some melee with your large metal fist, it feels pretty good. I would personally like the option to aim your boosters with your left fist and activate it with your left trigger, because right now you boost where you look, which can feel a little awkward, but it has great potential. Agony Vr is the VR version of the non-VR game. This thing looks wild, with some serious gore and with sexually explicit content mixed together. I've never personally had a hard-on whilst wanting to vomit at the same time, but this could be the game to let me experience that. Amongst Us VR got announced at the Game Awards show and is coming to all platforms. Not my sort of game, but a lot of people love the non-VR version. I expect the VR version to sell pretty well. The Show VR is another VR port of a flat game that recently had a trailer. It's a Lovecraftian style game with some very striking visuals, and it could be a real trip in virtual reality. A Medieval VR game is another VR port of a Medieval. This is an old school heretic style, fast paced melee magic combat game. It's got some retro visuals that still look nice, and it will be a big hit with retro gamer fans. Undead Citadel has been in development for years now, and it's been on my radar since 2019. It looks really nice with some interesting combat that uses a hybrid melee system that uses some physics but isn't fully physics based like Blade and Sorcery. It has a single player story driven campaign spanning multiple hours. I really hope we see it in 2022. Project 4 is the codename for Stress Level Zero's next game. This is the same developer that made Boneworks. They teased a reveal a few months ago, but the reveal never happened. But it's been a couple of years since Boneworks came out, so I expect this new game to come out at some point in 2022. Lonn is a futuristic cyberpunk style VR game that was revealed back in 2019 and looks to be doing some really interesting things with switchable gloves that let you manipulate the environment as well as some combat. 9 Splintered Mind is another cyberpunk style game, but this one is a futuristic detective game where you have to solve some murders. System Shock 2 Enhanced Edition was teased to be getting VR support. It's a very old game now, and I personally would have preferred the new System Shock remake to get VR treatment. But if you're a System Shock fan, at least you get to experience the original in virtual reality. Blunt Force is a story-driven World War II shooter with some nice graphics. I played the demo of this a while ago, and it needs a lot of work with the hand interactions, but it had potential to be good. I'm hoping to see more about this one soon. Lowfly can be played right now for a price on itch.io, but other than some pretty looking environments, there's not really much gameplay there. It was originally supposed to come out at the end of 2020, and it still feels a long way off being a complete game. I don't expect this one to come out anytime soon, but you never know. Pirates VR Jolly Roger was announced a couple of years ago with a very pretty trailer that clearly wasn't actual gameplay. Is this game the real thing? Hopefully. And that's it. Let me know if I missed anything. I think we've got lots to look forward to this year, and remember, a lot of games get announced and released in the same year, so there's going to be a lot of great games that we don't even know about yet. Anyway, bye bye everyone, bye bye.